Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Eagles versus 49ers NFC Championship game round preview with Nicky Stees. Please do me a favor, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to both the Hardcore Sports Network and Nicky Stees channel if you have not done so already. So first, I'm going to share, there's the link to my channel if you haven't got to it yet. So I'll give you guys a few seconds there to check it out, and we're just getting started. So we'll give people a few more seconds to come on in and tune into the stream right here before we get rocking and rolling right here. So, I hope you're all having a happy, great Friday wherever you're at right now. Hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're just having a nice, fun, relaxing Friday. And if you're going to go out this weekend, please do us all a favor. Please do so safely. Don't drink and drive. Don't be the one to risk your life or somebody else's life. So, let's see. Let's get into it. So, it's been an interesting back and forth going on if you're on Eagles Twitter right there between the Eagles base and the 49ers base. Talking joke. Lots of joking around, lots of clowning around, all that. I mean, there's been some real clown around I've been seeing around here, too. Like a lot of 49ers fans trying to take shots at the Eagles. Some of the Niners fans traveling to Philly are already putting a Niners jersey on the Rocky statue, because that always works out well, doesn't it? Ask the Giants fans and Vikings fans how that one works out. And you also got there's this clowned out tweet. I shared it as a post, like it's ridiculous. It was this real clowned out tweet going on right there where it was a pic from the movie Rocky Balboa, the 2006 one. It was that they took the poster to that, photoshopped Brock Purdy on it and called it Brocky. Yeah, Brocky. I looked at that, I'm like, this is real clowned out right here. This is just Brocky. That is one of the most clowned out things I've seen, y'all, for real. Just like, come on, man. Seriously, that all you got right there is Brocky? Oh, man, but all this back and forth's been going on. Some Niners fans talking trash about the Eagles, who they played right there. It's the same old trash talk. Oh, Eagles haven't played anyone. Niners haven't played anyone. All that back and forth, but all this is just talk. But let's get to the main thing, shall we? So let's speak of Brock Purdy, the man, the myth himself. Let's talk about him a little bit. So since he's taken over the starting duties for the Niners, he's been good enough right there with this play. Let's just say that. He's been good enough to at least make this team relevant. Here he is, this 6th-round pick that all of a sudden got the opportunity. He's doing something with it. He's at least playing solid with it, and it does help, too, that he's got those weapons with him. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. Who's the Ayuk? What's his name? Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk. So he's got those guys right there. It does help when you have those weapons surrounding you there, Mr. Brock Purdy. Now, Purdy itself, it's a decent underdog story. He's come out of nowhere, and he's managed to at least put together a decent run right there. But when you look at him play, though, you realize there's really no comparison between him and Jalen Hurts in terms of the type of quarterbacks they are, okay? They're not the same QB at all. I talked about it earlier this week. I dropped a short about it, but I'm just going to reiterate a point I dropped on that one right there, all right? Look, Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts. Here's the difference. Purdy took over because Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo were out injured. Okay, if it weren't for that, he wouldn't even gotten this opportunity. He'd just be sitting on the bench, basically keeping Jimmy G his Gatorade. But he's gotten the opportunity. Whereas Jalen Hurts, people try to say he was a system QB, but you clearly saw when Gardner Minshew got plugged into the system, wasn't the same results. Point being, though, it's not a system QB thing. What it is, though, it's more so Jalen Hurts. Whereas Brock Purdy, he's taking right where the 49ers were when Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, and they're continuing that momentum right there. That's one of the main differences right there. If you look at Brock Purdy's highlights, you can assess his film. You see that he's a decent, he's a mid-strength thrower, like he can throw like mid-range, but he's not really like a deep thrower though. Seen some mid-range throws to guys like George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk, but he does a lot of short passes too. He gets a lot of those short passes off to Kittle, Deebo, Christian McCaffrey, and they help make plays from there as well. So that really helps the Niners out too. Now, Brock Purdy has made some good plays too, though. He's, done a good job in some situations avoiding the blitz. He's made a couple nice medium-sized medium-length throws, like 20 yards or so. But overall, Brock Purdy, he doesn't really have that deep arm. He doesn't make any throws that really makes you go, holy smokes, that was amazing. I mean, a lot of it has to do with the talent he's got around him. These guys get open, and they help him out a little bit by getting open. And that's right there that's what helps Brock Purdy the most right there. But you compare that to Jalen Hurts' play, obviously Jalen Hurts can make those deep throws right there. We've seen it time and time throughout the regular season, game after game after game, where I haven't gotten that yet out of Brock Purdy. So, yeah, solid effort, but it does help with the talent he's got around him too. So that's a factor right there as far as Brock Purdy and who is, and all this talk about the underdog, the rookie underdog, and all that and that. But you know what? I mean, yeah. But see, solid performance against the Seahawks. Yeah, struggling team. But against the Cowboys, Purdy didn't really do anything like, what did he do against the Cowboys that truly made you go, wow, that was amazing? Like, I ask you guys, what has he done? What did he do there? Go ahead. Exactly. What you got was also what helped in that Cowboys game was some of the turnovers Dak threw right there in that game. That played a big factor too in this as well. The turnovers. So that is a key right there. So you got to remember that too. Give the Niners defense some props too for how well they're doing. And credit to DeMeco Ryans. He's got that team playing some good defense right there. I mean, they're not as good as the Eagles defense throughout the season, but they're still a good unit right there. So let's not make no mistake about it. Yep. So now, and one more thing. DeMeco Ryans, hey, best of luck to him in his head coaching search, or he's hoping for an opportunity. The head coaching realm, maybe with the Cardinals, possibly. Maybe another team I don't want to say the Houston Texans because what are they going to do? Fire him after one season? Yeah, I wouldn't trust the Houston Texans at all with that. So what I'm going to do now now I'm going to start to move on a little bit and let's talk about some of the key matchups in this contest right here. So taking a look over my notes real quickly. So there's several key matchups in this conference championship game. And let's face it, the reason I went with several key matchups because this is, a conference championship game. This is a big game right here. So obviously there's a lot of things to discuss. So I'm going to get into it. So let's start with the first main key matchup right here. I'm going to go with the Eagles wide receivers versus the Niners secondary. So obviously the main Eagles wide receivers in this one, you got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Those are the main three weapons in here for the Eagles team. And we take a look at, they're going against that Niners secondary. You got Tyshawn Gibson, the senior, who is the leader for interceptions for the season with 5 for the Niners. You got Diomorde Lenoir. And you got safety, Talanoa Hufangana. And then, of course, you got Travarius Ward there. So those are the main players in that 49ers secondary. The main one you got to watch out for is Tyshawn Gibson Sr. He's the one who can make interceptions at it. He had 5 during the season leading the Niners. So that's one we got to watch out for. But you're also talking about the Eagles here with the wide receivers of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert is their main 3 options in the passing game that Hurts can throw the ball to. Now, A.J. Brown, he did have himself a monster game last year against the Niners as a member of the Titans, but also to be fair, that was, again, Josh Norman, too. Peaked Josh Norman. But he's not going to be going against that here. And there is a possibility they could double team, too. And here's the thing that could help the Eagles. Here's an advantage for them. The 49ers, despite their strengths on defense, one of their biggest weaknesses is giving up deep plays. There have been times throughout the season the Niners have given up a few deep passing plays on the deep ball. And considering Jalen Hurts' ability to throw the ball downfield, that can work out in our favor there, knowing the Niners do have a habit of giving up some plays that, with those deep balls. So that could help us out right there. You get A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith downfield. Yeah, Hurts can make the right read and get that ball off to him and help break open the game or give us a big first down. So there is some favorability in that matchup there with our wide receivers going against that secondary that can be prone at times to giving up some deep plays. And considering we got some guys that know to run those deep routes, that could be an advantage right there. So that's a matchup we could benefit from right there. Now, another key matchup, though, for our offense, not as favorable matchup, but it's the run game versus the 49ers D-line. Now, that 49ers defensive line is one of the better run stoppers defenses in the league. I think they were 5th in stopping the run amongst all teams and throughout the regular season. And remember, Nick Bosa, with him into the QB, those 18.5 sacks during the regular season, that's played a role in helping open up lanes for the rest of their D-line to stop the run. Now, with the Eagles, our running game, we got Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott trio, and on top of that, you add the fact that Jalen Hurts can make some plays running. That helps us out in that regard right there. But here is the thing. But, the Niners do have us top run defense, so that could be a tough matchup for us, though, trying to run the ball against them. But I feel like there are ways we can do it, though. And I'll get to that more in my keys to victory, but one way is to maybe try to run the ball to the outside right there, because that's going to be a tougher matchup here than it was against the Giants. Remember, the 49ers have a much better run defense than the Giants, so it's not going to be as easy to run the ball against them. So don't expect the same yardage from us running it, but we can still get it done. There's still ways to run it. I mean, you got 3 running backs right there that could do something at least. But yeah, that's going to be a key matchup. Another key matchup here is Nick Bosa versus the Eagles defensive line. Now, you can expect the 49ers to rotate. And the reason I say Eagles D-line versus Bosa is because the 49ers rotate Bosa around. They could rotate around. They could try to match up against Jordan Mailata a few plays, and then next thing you know, they move him, try to match him against Lane Johnson. Especially being that Lane Johnson's still dealing with an injury, they might try to use that for an advantage. They might feel Bosa has an advantage over a less than 100% Lane Johnson. So don't be surprised if the Niners try to put Bosa on Lane Johnson to try to get to Hurts quicker. Don't be surprised if that's part of the Niners defensive line rotation there. But that's going to be an interesting matchup right there. But Bosa, you know what? There could be a possibility that the Eagles might try to double team Bosa, but that could also leave room for some of the other defensive linemen to get to the line and get to Miles Sanders or Boston Scott or Kenneth Gainwell. So that's going to be a tough matchup right there with Bosa, because not only is it Bosa, but the threat of him plays a role in other players on that Niners D-line. Get what I'm saying? There, because if they double team Bosa because they're worried about him, that creates openings for the other guys on that line. That could happen. So that's a matchup the Eagles got to be careful with. But that's one thing they got to watch out for. Say, if you really believe Lane Johnson can handle Nick Bosa, even despite being less than 100%, take advantage of that matchup every chance you get. Every time Bosa lines up against Lane Johnson, count on him to do it. And also another key matchup you got, though, is our D-line versus Trent Williams. Because the reason I say that is because, this 49ers has a decent O-line. They have a solid O-line, but Trent Williams is the heart and soul of that offensive line. That's somebody they got to watch out for right there, the Eagles. That's someone that could, help them like some holes for Christian McCaffrey, give Brock Purdy a little bit of time to get his feet set before he throws. But here's the thing, too. If you look at the rest of the line, who else on that 49ers O-line are you concerned with? Ask yourselves that if you're the viewer. And if you feel like there's anyone else you're concerned with, you can leave a comment in the chat and post who you're concerned with. But you've also got to remember something. The 49ers have not gone up against the Eagles D-line before. They haven't gone up against that quality of D-line with those guys there. You got Brandon Graham there. Josh Sweat is there. You have Fletcher Cox in there. Javon Hargrave in there. These are guys that, the 49ers are going to have to worry about right there, because Trent Williams is only one guy, but that's the only guy I have some concern right there might be able to stop this Eagles pass rush right there and get into the QB. But other than that, who are they going to get to right there? And that's going to tie into another key matchup. Brock Purdy versus the Eagles D-line. See, Brock Purdy hasn't really been put in a situation where he's had to face a ton of pressure yet from a intense defensive line coming at him. He hasn't been in that situation yet. So we're going to have to see how is Brock Purdy going to react. He gets put in that situation right there. He's got to face that D-line right there. What's he going to do? Ask yourselves, what is Brock Purdy going to do when he sees that D-line coming at him? That's something that right there you're going to have to, you have to wonder what's he going to do. It's going to be a tough afternoon for Brock Purdy if we get there. So that's another key matchup right there, is to get to Brock Purdy. And I'll break that down more in my keys to victory in a moment. Few minutes. Of course, another key matchup is, like I said, the Eagles run versus. And there's another key matchup is obviously Debo versus the Eagles defensive backs. I think one way you want to handle a Debo Samuel is you try to match up Darius Slay Jr. man-to-man with him. You saw how big play Slay did man-to-man, shutting down Justin Jefferson week 2. That's where Darius Slay Jr. is at his best, when you play a man-to-man. And that's something we should do here on Debo Samuel. The best shot you have at shutting him down is you got to play these guys man-to-man against him right there. And that's your best chance to shut him down. So that's one key thing right there too. Because you can take Debo out of it, and you can get some pressure on Brock Purdy. That gives us an advantage defensively. And now, with that being said, I'm going to switch gears and get to my keys to victory. So let's get to it. So our keys to victory is to blitz. Like I said, get the pressure on Brock Purdy right there. Force him to make some throws he's not comfortable making, because Brock Purdy, yes, he hasn't really been put in that situation yet. He's not in that situation where he's been forced to make those. I'm botching all over the place. He's not forced to make any tough throws like I was just saying a few moments ago. And if we can get to Brock Purdy, get that pressure up front from those guys, like the sack machines this Eagles defense has been throughout the season, he's not going to be able to get his feet set and make those throws to his key weapons like he's used to. He hasn't been put in a situation where he's had to respond to that type of pressure. And what's Brock going to do when he sees all that pressure coming in his face? We get to him. What's he going to do then? He might be able to get the ball to Chris McCaffrey, but McCaffrey might be behind the line. So how is that going to work out right there? Yeah, exactly. That's going to be tough for him right there. You got Josh Sweat, Javon Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham coming at him. Right, he's going to be forced to make some throws. He's not, he's going to see Brock Purdy's weaknesses get exposed if we can do that right there. So that's one key right there. And another key, like I was just alluding to, is cover these guys man-to-man. Get your guys like your Darius Slay Jr.'s, your James Bradbury's, your C.J. Gardner-Johnsons. Put these guys on the Niners' weapons man-to-man, not 10 yards off them, because that doesn't work. You put the Debo Samuel has 10 yard space right there, he can get open. And once he gets that ball, he knows how to gain those additional yards too. We've seen that throughout the 49ers games. When they Debo Samuel open, it is trouble for the opposing team's defense, because that means Mr. Debo Samuel's open. He has some room to move with it, move those sticks, and keep that get more yards after the catch. So we don't want that happening right there. So you want to play a man-to-man right there. Try to minimize their effectiveness right there. Whether you're talking Debo, Ayuk, George Kittle, that's one thing you want to do right there. Match them up man to man. And another key to victory, like I said, reiterating, is to go deep on the Niners. Try to throw some deep balls right there in the passing game. right there. Try to catch these guys by surprise because the Niners can get caught, like I said earlier, with the deep balls. So if you get a situation where, say, A.J. Brown's getting double teamed, you can get Devontae Smith there, maybe get him, 10, you can maybe 15, 20 yards downfield. That's going to be that's a great look right there, especially if A.J. Brown's double teamed and Devontae's got some space 20 yards downfield. There's a look right there. That's one way you can go deep. Now, we saw some nice deep throws throughout the season, especially last week against the Giants in the divisional round. It's good. If we can get a similar matchup to that, then to Jalen Hurts, let him just chuck that ball downfield. Let those guys get open and do the rest from there. So that's one way to play these guys right here. So that's one thing you want to do right there. So that's one. So yeah, you definitely want to get involved in the deep passing game. And sometimes, that's one thing right there that can help break it open right there. Maybe get us a few plays downfield right there. Like that would be great if we're at or on 30-yard line. You get a deep pass, maybe get us into 49ers territory. That's one way going deep can work. And also it can slow down the 49ers defense a little bit too. Now the run game, another key to victory, I think we should try to run the ball, go a little different. Try to go on the outside a little bit. Try to get away from those Niners run stoppers. Try to run the ball on the outside, do a few pitches. Try to get try to minimize their linebackers and defensive line's effectiveness to get to the running back right away. That's something else we can do right here. Try to move them. Because running the ball up the middle, there's a good chance that some of those guys, those D linemen or those linebackers, they can get there quicker or maybe make a play or two. But if you try to move the ball to the outside, it might. You could talk like, say, 1st and 10. You hand the ball from 10 to Miles Sanders. You pitch it to the outside to the right. Maybe you can get 4 or 5 yards out of it, and then you get a 2nd and medium out of it. That's one way this could work out in our favor right there. So there's something you could do right there. And maybe you also try to get the running backs in the passing game a little bit more too. Maybe try to get Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell in the passing game a little bit, especially in short yardage plays, short yardage downs, I should say. That'll work. They're like a 3rd and 2 or something, maybe screen pass. That could be, help get good enough for these guys to pick up a 1st down, keep the drive alive. That's one way we can benefit right there. One thing we could do. So you want to get the running backs involved, but, we could try to take some shots running up the middle, especially if the Niners, their D-line's getting outmatched by our O-line. We can still take some shots right there, but I would like to try to see us get the ball run on the outside a little bit. Try to get the running backs on the screen game too. I feel that could help us out with our running backs getting involved in the game. So that's one advantage we could have right there. I think the most important key to victory right here, the most important is to play disciplined football. You know what I'm saying? We have the home field advantage. Use it to our advantage. Feed off the home crowd cheering us. But so that's one thing we certainly want to do right there is feed off that crowd right there. Use that to our advantage. We got the 12th man at the link. It's going to be loud. Even Jonathan Gannon talked about his experience with the Vikings going there to the link. Didn't really hit him what he was getting into until his team stepped on the field and they realized the atmosphere in Philly for the playoff games could be a little nerve-wracking for some of these QBs like it was for Case Keenum. Could be the same thing for Brock Purdy, who's never been put in this type of pressure situation before. Now, obviously, with playing disciplined football, you want to avoid unnecessary penalties. You want to have good play calling. And you want to keep the mistakes to a minimum. So that's what I mean when I say play disciplined football against this team. It's one way to do it right there. To stay away from all those penalties right there. No boneheaded turnovers. Don't try to play hero ball or do any of that right there. You don't get overconfident against this team. That's something we got to do right there. Some keys right there to playing some disciplined football. So those are my main keys to victory here against the Niners. So what I'm also going to do right now is going to break through the injury report break down the injury report, I should say. I'm going to go through the depth charts real quick. And I'm going to share my screen with you. Let's scroll up. Scroll up. All right. So here we go. So you got Jalen Hurt. Look at our offense. Most of our guys are healthy. Clearly see Miles, AJ's. Obviously, most of our guys are healthy. The only, red flag is Lane Johnson's questionable, but he insists he's going to play. And let's face it, we know he's playing. Let's take a look at our defense. You got Anton Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, Lynn Volges, Javon Hargrave, Josh Sweat, Robert Quinn's back, Christian Ellis, Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, Nakobe Dean, Patrick Johnson, Hassan Reddick, James Brett. Vontae Maddox is questionable. We're not sure if he's going to return, but as of now, it sounds doubtful. I mean, I'd hope he steps in the game and plays. I hope he does play, but that's still questionable. And you can see we are healthy right there. So now let's take a look at the Niners for a second, shall we? 1 second. So let's go through it. Although you do have Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell are questionable, so that can make you feel like they're less than 100%. Although Christian McCaffrey, he insists he's going to play, which I believe he will. But if he's coming into this game less than 100%, you feel like that might be an advantage. But at the same time, Lane Johnson, it didn't look like that was a question mark last week, but that was a different situation. But continue. So we got Debo's questionable going into this one. But other than that, the Niners are healthy, so they should be mostly at full strength. You got their defense. You got Hassan Ridgway's on IR. You got Charles Omenhu is questionable, but most of their guys are healthy. You got Nick Bosa, Dree Greenlaw, Fred Warner, Tayshaun Gibson, Chavarius Ward, Taluna Hufanga, Demondre Lenore. I mean, those guys are pretty much healthy for the most part. So both teams are going to this game relatively healthy. So shouldn't be much of a concern. So injury shouldn't be much of a concern for either team. I mean, you do have Lane Johnson for us. Christian McCaffrey, whether he's going to be at full strength is a main question for the Niners. Debo, whether he's going to be full strength is a question. But that doesn't mean that we underestimate those guys and their abilities. That's why I'm not seeing that as that big of an advantage, because I'm still counting on these guys playing. Or I should say, is I'm still, if we were to bet, I would bet that those guys are going to play and still be a factor. So this is going to be this could be a closer, tough game. Now, I know score predictions haven't always been that great, but I'm going to go with the score prediction here. I'm going to say the Eagles are going to win this game by a score of 24-20. You guys can drop your score prediction in the chat right there. Or even if you're catching this after it's been recorded, you can drop a comment with your score prediction if you're watching this part of the video sometime later, Friday or Saturday. I'll greatly appreciate it. So before I go off here, I'm also going to briefly give my prediction for the Bengals and Chiefs. I got to wonder, though, with that game, how's Patrick Mahomes going to do with that high ankle sprain? I mean, he's going in a situation right here where he was dealing last week. He got that injury, he had that high ankle sprain, he had to briefly come out. How is he going to play effectively against the Bengals? Now, it is an Arrowhead, but remember last time what happened last year when these two teams played. So I feel like the Bengals are coming into this one with momentum, and I wouldn't be surprised if they come through and get the W. But at the same time, I feel like Kansas City is going to be motivated. I'm going to go with the Bengals actually to win that game. So I'm going to pick the Bengals to win the AFC Championship game. Eagles win the NFC Championship game. Predicting Eagles-Bengals, Super Bowl 57. But we'll ultimately have to see what happens. So that's all I got to say for now. So everyone that tuned in, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a great Friday, or if you're catching it on Saturday, I hope you're enjoying your Saturday. Fly, Eagles, fly. Let's get this W. Let's get back to the Super Bowl. Let's bring Lombardi Trophy number 2 to this Philadelphia Eagles organization. All right, so best of luck to the Eagles. Fingers crossed. Let's get this W. Let's get back to the Super Bowl. And until next time, Nicky Stees signing off. I'm going to leave you with one last thing.